story you were telling me. Couple boys clock out about 5:35, trying to put a little hammer in their head. Standing in the liquor store staring at a fifth, but they picked up a handle instead. Hell right. Hell right? Hell right. Okay. Couple girls with their boots on, got their Bluetooth on, t-shirts saying go Sooners. Then the girl from the small town took off the old town, put on the little Hank Jr. Thank God. Hell right. She got all her rowdy friends coming over tonight. Hell right. Hell right. Everybody's throwing down on a Friday night somewhere in America. There's a bottle to burn and a fire to light. And you ain't done nothing if you did it halfway. If you're gonna raise hell, then you better damn raise hell right. Hell right. Hell right. There's a guitar on the ground that was making some sound till somebody pulled a hillbilly slip. Now there's fog on the window. She never would have kissed him if he didn't play a lick like this. Hell right. Hell right. Hell right. Hell right. Everybody's throwing down on a Friday night somewhere in America. There's a bottle to burn and a fire to light. And you ain't done nothing if you did it halfway. If you're gonna raise hell, then you better damn raise hell right. Hell right. Hell right. Now 7 a.m., damn if there ain't an empty handle on a square hay bale. Everybody's passed out drunk, but when they wake up, they're all gonna hurt like hell right. Yeah, boy. Hell right. Hell right. Everybody's throwing down on a Friday night somewhere in America. There's a bottle to burn and a fire to light. And you ain't done nothing if you did it halfway. If you're gonna raise hell, then you better damn raise hell right. Hell right. Hell right.
You're listening to the House of Cards on the Big Patriot Radio Network.
Introducing to you. You're on House of Cards. Live on Facebook and YouTube. It's going down now. Locked and loaded with the truth.
Tonight's show is brought to you by the folks at wethepatriotshop.com/big. Contact them there or at 518-538-2877 if you're looking for hormone-free, grass-fed, Black Angus American-grown beef for your next cookout. You'll want to visit the folks at wethepatriotshop.com/big. Your cookout and barbecue will be the hit of the summer. Again, check them out at wethepatriotshop.com/big.
Introducing to you. You're on House of Cards. Live on Facebook and YouTube. It's going down now. Locked and loaded with the truth.
And good evening, everybody. Glad to have you here. I'm Mike Covert. Welcome. Happy Thursday. Another Beaufort County House of Cards. Thank you for joining us, no matter where you are, watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, or listening live as we're simulcast on the BigPatriotRadio.com network. Let's see. What do we got going on tonight? Man, what a big show last week, even though it was out of my element, not here in the studio. But had Nancy Mace on. That was huge. Probably led to this week, or this previous week's, the number one listening cities last week was Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, and Hilton Head, And I would imagine that's probably because of Nancy Mace being on. The number one song this week on Big Patriot Radio was Wilted Rose by the Black Crowes and Lainey Wilson. So that's a good song. That's like pretty new, if I remember right. Anyway, don't forget to check us out at bigpatriotradio.com. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. It's the best in blues, news, country pop, and classic rock. And we have podcasts during the week. On Monday nights, it's the New America Movement with David and Jordan Cox out of Easley, South Carolina. They're in the upstate. Let's see. Wednesday, we have the number one rated show still after a year and a half, couple years now, is Corey Allen and the Overton Report. That is on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. And I failed to mention that the New America Movement is at 7 and 9 o'clock on Mondays. Let's see. Thursday, we're simulcasting live. On Saturday nights, 7 o'clock, our brand new show. It's Annie the Chickadee Ubellis and Southern Sense Radio, Saturdays at 7. And then Sundays at 7 o'clock, my good friend Andrew Southwick and Culture Crossroads. Be sure, again, to tune in to bigpatriotradio.com for all those and more.
Locked and loaded. Let's go. Big Patriot Radio. Blues, news, country pop, and classic rock.
You know, the South Carolina General Assembly concluded their current session today. And by the way, don't forget, we want to hear from you. Even though we got a lot of stuff going on the show, we still want to hear from you. Go in your little chat bar there and whatever outlet you're in and send us a message, whether it's a question or a statement or whatever. We're always looking for your input. Anyway, the General Assembly concluded today. True to form, the final week was one of fireworks and blunder at the same time. If you didn't get a chance to see yesterday's session of the South Carolina House, you missed some theatrics of a completely another level. I'm not totally sure, what it's going to take to solve this problem between. There's really three factions there in the South Carolina House. You've got the GOP, you've got the Democrats, and you have the Freedom Caucus. Those are really the main factions. Democrats, quite frankly, they're just sitting back laughing, I'm sure, knowing that the less they say, the better. It's the tribulations between the GOP and the Freedom Caucus that continues to grow and to divide the conservative party. Now, there are differences. Yeah, they're formidable and quite acceptable. The Freedom Caucus, basically, they are champions of conservatism at all costs. And that's fine. I agree with that. The GOP wing, while obviously being Republicans and conservatives, at least by name only recognition, they're more midstream and centrist in nature. Now, if anybody says that doesn't agree with this, that there are some Republicans who really are Democrat, but they use that letter R to get elected in their district. If someone, says that's ridiculous, they're ridiculous because it happens. It happens locally. It's certainly going to happen on the state level. Even though they have an R by their name, there are many that are wildly liberal. That's obvious and apparent. Yesterday, some of the antics by both of the groups, the GOP and the Freedom Caucus, some of the antics by both were, some could say insidious. Case in point, Micah Caskey, GOP House Rep from Columbia, decided to wear a tinfoil hat at the podium and embark on some disingenuous attacks on the Freedom Caucus. Most people on here know my feelings about Micah Caskey. I hear he's a good guy. I still don't like him. Anyway, several members, equally, I might add, got a tad bit personal with each other. Gil Gatch out of Charleston and Jay West, who I think is from the upstate, both, and they're in the GOP side. They're not Freedom Caucus. They got a little, hasty is putting it lightly, but they got, a little bent with Freedom Caucus member Jordan Pace of the Charleston area while he was taking questions from the podium, as we call it, from the well of the House. Not the first time they've done this. Gatch is known, and I've called him out on this, to ride the coattails of other members jumping in on the bandwagons of attack. In other words, Gatch is famous for, letting the fire get started and then all of a sudden choosing the side and jumping on. We've seen that over and over again. West, however, a well-qualified member of the House, in my opinion, lost some credibility, once he began his attack on Pace, insinuating that Pace had, a lack of experience. While obviously, and again, the word I use is insinuating. Even Pace picked up on it. That was a little uncalled for. And this went back and forth. Both sides chiding at the other. At one point, Freedom Caucus Representative April Cromer, who I believe is out of Aiken, I think. I don't know where she pulled this one from, but she invoked rule. What was that rule? 5.1.2, I believe it is 5.1. They were talking about the what's commonly known as the healthcare czar bill, so-called. This rule that she invoked, it caught the speaker and the speaker pro tem and the House reading clerk all off guard. Most people off guard, but this rule calls for the reading clerk to read verbatim the entire bill. I think it was something like 100 to 200 pages long, 100 and some odd pages long. And that no one was allowed to leave the chambers, as we'll get about here in just a second. So it took about 15 minutes or so, and I'm probably padding that a little, for the wheels on this bus to fall off. Democrat Representative Justin Bamberg of Bamberg County spoke up and invoked Rule 3.9, which says that no member was allowed to leave unless they had permission, which must be done in writing from the speaker. Little bit later, they called for a quorum call. That happened, and it was done again. This time, I believe it was Davey Hyatt. I think I don't quote me on that. After Justin Bamberg called out, especially Freedom Caucus members, his thing was, look, if we have to be here, then I want all the Freedom Caucus members to be here. So they go forward. Then Davey Hyde or somebody called out again, Rule 3.9, and said the doors must be closed. And some point of this Jeffersonian rule says that no members may leave. They all have to be in there, which Bamberg said, hey, I don't want to start. I don't want the reading clerk to start until everybody is in their seat. So they embellished him and got everybody back. And the threat was, if you're not there, if you don't have permission, and only one that I believe had permission from the speaker, which has to be in writing, the sergeant at arms can call, or I don't know how the process works, but the sergeant at arms can send the state troopers after you. Well, there was one representative who got sick. I understand from a couple different people that whomever this is has some illness to begin with, and this compounded it, and they left. Well, by rule, and the speaker made the point that he ordered the sergeant at arms to get the state troopers and have that person come back, even though they were sick. That's how detailed this is. So everyone was ordered back in the chambers. The doors were shut. Again, no one was allowed to leave under the threat of, I don't know if it's arrest, but threat of, the state troopers coming to get you. And this continued to roll on until finally Representative Cromer asked for a point of order, withdrawing her request for Rule 5.1 and thereby stopping the reading. That was the only way that you could stop this, was if the person who called out the rule also withdrew it. So that's what happened. One of the things you do not do, if only for a matter of decorum, is to not tarnish the respect of the Speaker of the House. Now, I'm not saying you have to be in total agreement with the chair or the speaker pro tem. I certainly am not, but you don't disparage them. You honor the office of the position. You honor the office. Again, this is a matter of decorum and a matter of precedence. There was, there were some people. And I don't want to call them out, but there were some who I and some others in watching and then rewatching some of the pleadings somewhat stepped on the toes of the chair, of the speaker, and the speaker pro tem. And I think that's a little disingenuous, and those folks, and they know who they are, lost a little bit of credibility. Anyway, it ended. The point got across very well. More members got their feelings hurt, and they finally finished for the day. What's a huge concern is that people like the 5 Democrats who filed to run against the entire Beaufort delegation ever got the ability to set foot inside the House chambers. So they came back, the House and the Senate came back. Today was their final day. But when you look at the 5 people who have filed to run against the Beaufort delegation, and I'm going to concentrate on that delegation for tonight, again, the concern is, what if those 5 were in there? What would have taken place? That's scary. That's scary because, Beaufort County has a reputation in the State House of being a solid and strong delegation. And it always hasn't been that way. Matter of fact, I know I've been here 30 years or so, or maybe a little more. The majority of that time, they haven't been that strong. But I know prior to that, I'm talking decades ago, Beaufort County was extremely strong. They've gotten that back now. So, the entire delegation, minus a couple, mainly Senator Bright Matthews, Representative Rivers, nice guy, but he's a Democrat and plays completely by what they want. The rest are strong advocates for conservatism, for all of the people of Beaufort County. I can't imagine the circus continuing like we see recently, yesterday, some today, but mainly yesterday, with people like any of these 5 that we've been talking about them ever since filing date. If they were in there, I can't imagine the circus, the dog and pony show, the shit show that would happen if they were there. One of those, thought we'd talk about it tonight, is Lizette Cifaldi of Hilton Head, who is running against Jeff Bradley. That's seat 123, 123rd district. So in trying to understand Cifaldi, and I think I have met her, I'm not sure. I know her brother very well. But I think I met her. I'm not sure. Anyway, trying to understand her, I can draw only one conclusion. And this conclusion is directly from the materials that she puts out there. That's, if you don't hear them, you can only draw the conclusion based on what you hear. Well, she has one agenda item. And again, I'm talking about Lizette Cifaldi. She has one agenda item. She's one-dimensional. She talks about it. Everything she does is about this one item. She is running for office because she is a woman. Period. Not infrastructure, not energy, not the budget, not schools, not roads, because she is a woman. Every single thing about her, everywhere, is because she is a woman. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but it almost seems very apparent. And I'm just saying, just from what I'm reading, It's so much because I am woman. Like it's borderline, like man hating. I don't know. I'd love to find out. I hope not, and I don't know, but I do know that she wants to be elected because she is a woman, and that's it. Now, I'll give Kate Creech, who's running against Weston Newton in a feudal attack. Kate Creech, she removed this, but on her Facebook page, her stance is abortion, period. And she said, I will die by making sure we all have abortions available. She's a proud purveyor of having an abortion or whatever. She will aid and abet, she said. Well, at least that's an issue of issues. Because you're a woman, I don't know that that's an issue. Jeff Bradley wasn't elected because he is a man. He wasn't elected because he's Caucasian. He ran on and continues to run on principles and platforms and issues, not gender. Again, Cifaldi runs on she is woman. She has no ideas, no tangible assets as far as political prowess or political chutzpah. No goals found anywhere for the district or the state. Just she is woman. Is Cifaldi pro-life or pro-choice? We only know she is a woman. Is Cifaldi a proponent of higher taxes or more socialized programs, or does she want to cut taxes? We only know she is a woman. Is Cifaldi a proponent of higher education or even workforce training or an opponent of such? We only know that she is a woman. Is Cifaldi an advocate for spending citizen tax dollars for abortions up until the moment of birth, as the Democrat Party is becoming more attest to? We only know she is a woman. I guess the positive thing here is that even though she is a Democrat, at least Cifaldi knows she is a woman. So we'll give her that. In the age of, gender is, follow the science. As the Democrats had said back in 2020, you fools. All right, well, follow the science, Democrats. You, in the beginning, God created man and woman. Anyway, without going into that, is this a reason to send her to the General Assembly? Does that make her more qualified than Jeff Bradley because he is a man? Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, women are special. I'm married to one. I have 4 women daughters. My mom, she's a woman. Does that make them uniquely qualified more so than Bradley or any other elected official? Not necessarily. Not because they're women. So I ask you, those of you in the 123rd District on Hilton Head, not to be fooled by the talking points of Cifaldi, albeit one-dimensional. Send Jeff Bradley, this is an easy call, send Jeff Bradley back to the State House representing Hilton Head. Jeff and I don't agree on everything, and that is okay. There are some major things there, but at least he's issue driven. At least he has the 123rd District as a whole on the table to do better for. Not because he is a man. As Cifaldi says, I am a woman. Anyway, it smells like and looks like Cifaldi, again, you are who you hang around with. It looks like she has been influenced by people like Melinda Hendrickson, who's running against, Shannon Erickson for district, I think it's 124. Emily Mayer, Bridget Frazier, Kate Creech, and that entire clan. All of that energy has been wasted on nothingness. I mean, come on, ladies. There's 5 of you. Come up with something, anything. State a reason for your candidacy besides the fact you have female DNA. Again, hey, Lizette, I appreciate the fact that you have recognized you are a woman. But come up with something of substance. We'd love to have you on here. Throw something out there, for goodness sakes, which brings me to another Democrat candidate we've been talking about. Haven't been able to find out very much on this candidate, which is strange. I don't know. There's no primary. This young lady is she's a Democrat, so she doesn't. The vote doesn't happen until November. But still, it's the cycle of getting things out. Anyway, Charity Owens is running against Bill Herb Kurzman for House Seat 118. Now, we know very, very little about her. We know what we've learned, and what we have learned recently is that she called up Justin Bamberg, Representative Bamberg, and said, hey, would you do a TV or radio? I can't remember what they told me. Commercial. Yeah, sure. Who you run? What seat is this? And who's there now? Bill Herb Kurzman. No, not doing that. So she calls up another Democrat. Not sure where she's from, but Annie McDaniel. So it's the same thing. Would you make a commercial? Show me the ropes, blah, blah, blah. Sure, no problem. Who you running against? Bill Herb Kurzman. Whoa, no. So, no, it wasn't Justin Bamberg. I'm sorry. It was Jermaine Johnson. That's who it was. He's in the Midlands. So, all of that is, interesting. They both, when finding out who she was running against, Bill Herb Kurzman, said, hell no, I'm not getting in that. Sorry, you have to call somebody else. That alone says some remarkable things about her own candidacy and lack of ability to win. That also says remarkable things about the Beaufort County delegation. So, and obviously, not to mention, it speaks volumes of Bill Herb Kurzman and his weight that he carries in the House and with the delegation and the other members inside the House and Senate chambers, which, by the way, this past weekend was the annual, I forget the proper name of it, but it's the annual May River cleanup. We know that Representative Weston Newton and Representative Bill Herb Kurzman were out there helping, doing their thing, cleaning up. And I believe it's been, a couple decades they've been doing this. Were there any Democrat opponents? Any of the 5? No, there were not. So, a clean May River. Hey, Safaldi, I can't believe I'm helping a Democrat. Here is an issue that you could run with. A clean May River. Okay? A clean May River. The heart of the town. Obviously, it's not as important to Creech, Owens, or any of the others. Only the fact that they are a woman, that everybody needs to be able to have an abortion ad hominem. What is some of the other things? Oh, and kids should be able to decide whatever sex they are and have any kind of blockers done or medical procedures. It doesn't matter what age. That's what these people think. Crazy, I tell you. It is absolutely insane.
All the wickedness and filth this world has to offer.
Yeah. Rock music that shatters your bones. Big Patriot Radio.
That's some serious rock.
And you're responsible.
And as always, I invite all the Democrat candidates to come on the show. You know, we don't bite. And spread your message. I'll give you the same amount of time I give everybody else. Tonight we have Bill Young coming on, running against Nancy Mace. I'm going to give him the same time, probably a bit more because she was in a hurry, which I totally understand. So I invited them all to come on here. It's an open door. It's an open mic night always for them here on Beaufort County's House of Cards. So far, we heard from Henriksen and Creech, their people, whomever their people are, it's probably their person, told us to contact their media request sources. That in and of itself is quite a joke. These half-baked campaigns acting like they got some kind of congressional team going on. Give me a break. The crash and burn of all these Democrats is unreal, and it's developing before our very eyes. All you've got to do is watch. And hey, if any candidate, Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever, if they whoever they is, if they don't want to come on the media to talk about their platform, I don't want them on here to talk about their opponent. Tell me about you. What makes you tick? Why do I want to vote for you and not the other person? What is it about you? If you don't tell us, all we can do is go by what we find. And that's, you know, what's the old saying? Only believe half of what you read and nothing what you hear. So anyway, so last week we talked about the extremely embarrassing situation happening inside the GOP conventions here in South Carolina for national delegates to the Republican National Convention, which is in, I think it's Wisconsin, somewhere around July, I believe. We told you about 3 people here in South Carolina who won seats, okay, but were then released because, according to the SCGOP, they said they spent money, which actually was $500 a piece, on RFK Jr., on his presidential campaign fundraiser. Now, let's clear some things up. The 3 also said, and the 3 is Keith and Olga Blanford, of Charleston, and Lauren Martell of Beaufort County. The 3 of them also said that the rules state this is, the GOP can't do this if there is not a Republican candidate, which at that time there wasn't. Everybody knew Donald Trump would be the presumptive, but he was not the candidate at that time. This is July. No, this is, I don't know, July, I guess it was. Yes, July 2023. They also said, all of them have said that they had no idea it was a political fundraiser. Now, I find that almost impossible to agree with, as it was $500. $500 freaking dollars paid to RFK fund. Now, if they say they didn't know, then I'm not accusing them. I'm just saying I find it hard to believe. Now, they're indicating that RFK wasn't a Democrat candidate then, that he was already independent. And I don't know if that's all 3 or only 1. I'm not sure. Now, that is false. I can tell you that is false. I looked it up myself. This donation, $500 a piece, was July of 2023. RFK Jr. did not go independent until October 2023. So, I have, and what does this boil down to? This boils down to the South Carolina GOP and the South Carolina MySC GOP. Drew McKissick, Jeff Davis, who have always been doing this. That's what this boils down to. Now, I have taken a position of only looking at the facts. I take the personalities out of this. So hence my stating that I find it hard to believe that you didn't know what $500 was going for or going to. But if you didn't know, you didn't know. He was a Democrat. He wasn't an independent then. He was a Democrat. However, I feel that the SCGOP is also at fault because they didn't observe the appeals process. Okay, so there's fault everywhere. They're saying, well, there is no appeal process to Rule 16C, which they say is what they violated. I read that totally different. I believe there is an appeals process. Not to mention it's called due process, and they didn't give it to him. The Rules Committee said the three of them broke this rule, went to Chairman McKissick, who oddly enough was seen in a photograph having a heart-to-heart with Joanne Lee at this event. Anyway, and he said, yep, I stand behind you. That's it. That's not it. So, again, in my opinion, they all, the SCGOP, Olga and Keith Blanford, Lauren Martell, they're all three in different ways, shapes, and forms. There is some guilt there, in my opinion. Now, here's where it turns interesting. As we dug further and further into this, we kept seeing, and I mentioned this last week, we kept seeing and hearing the name Jodanne Lee come up. She lost in that vote to the three that we just mentioned. But when they were negated or released or whatever you want to call it, she miraculously won. Is that a coincidence or not? I think not. This past weekend, just 4 or 5 days ago, there was another convention. Final votes were taken, and I don't understand why they had to do this twice. I've been told, but it makes no sense. They're wasting time and they're wasting money, and that's ridiculous. Anyway, the final votes were taken, and Jodanne Lee, obviously, because she won the previous week from them being released, she was there. She's also the Beaufort County State Executive Committee woman. She did not make it to the national convention. Now, matter of fact, Kevin Henley, the county chair, didn't make it. They both finished miserably. Jodanne Lee finished exceptionally miserably. I'm telling you, this person is a canker sore on the ass of the Republican Party. She has been recorded many times saying, quote, "You should follow the Reagan principle," end quote, which I agree. That says, Republicans should not attack other Republicans. I understand. I totally get it. But, and this is about her, not about anybody else. Then she says she attacks other people in the same party. It's the old, this is for the, what is it called? This is for thee, but not for me situation. So if you're voting, or if you're not voting with her or come after her, she speaks out. Like it's a demonic cherub. I told you last week, I've told you before, yelling at a county councilman in a parking lot that she will have him removed from office and will do whatever it takes to have him, lose in the next election. Terrorizing community members, allegedly, who don't vote her way. The ink, as a matter of fact, the ink on Catherine Templeton's her paperwork saying she's going to run for office hadn't even dried, and Lee was out there telling people that Mace was not going to be the congresswoman any longer, that it would be Templeton. Nothing against Catherine Templeton, but the ink hadn't even dried on her paperwork. And here is Jodanne Lee, the county's executive committee woman, and to the GOP, from the county to the state GOP, but she's also the head of a fledgling small, now it's very non-influential group on Hilton Head. Think about this. Is this how someone who holds these positions should talk and behave in public? Now, I'm sure she's sitting there, or her husband, who whatever. It's well, you're horrible. You're horrible. How you get on there, Covert? It's a show. It's a radio show. Okay. You got to get over it. Remember that sign up there at the beginning before this thing started every week about, it's like the disclaimer. You need to read that. So does she not believe that debate and conversation should happen prior to making such brazen claims? You know, if she came out and said, hey, I want to host a debate between Bill Young, Nancy Mace, and Catherine Templeton, and we're going to go at it. If she had done that first, I'm totally on board with that. That has got credibility written all over it. That's integrity written all over it. But no, the ink hadn't dried, and she's already saying Nancy Mace is out, and we're going to put Catherine Templeton in. Have you even talked to Bill Young, Jodan? Have you even talked to him? You know, Ms. Lee, I guess that's what she goes by. She needs to be stopped, period. Her husband, as I mentioned earlier, he is on the county election commission, which even adds more layers of possible and alleged issues. You know, what they call pillow talk, nepotism, etc. I mean, we talked about that when the community talked about it when the wife of the sheriff was running for solicitor. The opposition to that talked a lot about pillow talk and how that would be maybe not a good thing, you know? And so it is, it does mean something. Hey, Donna, how are you? And you're right. Everyone should have a voice. And let me pause that for a second. With Jodan Lee, I can tell you from personal experience, everyone does not have a voice. She has blocked out people from appearing, from talking. She continues to do that. That is not what a conservative believes. That is something totally different, you know, and I encourage any and all of you, anyone else in the sound of my voice, make your claim, get in touch with the state GOP and to the Beaufort County GOP that she and document it, that she needs to be removed and an investigation into ethics needs to be started. I mean, what are her credentials? What are her credentials? Now, supposedly she is an immigrant from communist China. And I applaud her, I guess, for that. If that is true, I mean, I applaud you for leaving communism and trying to get in on the American dream. I totally respect that. But what then? Her claim is, here's her claim, that she authored the election integrity bill. And there are people, especially on Hilton Head and throughout the county, that are snowballed. I don't understand it, why you are so snowballed. She had some pointers. She did not write that bill. She goes around telling everybody, I authored that bill. That's my bill, election integrity. It's the election disintegrity or lack of integrity bill. It's bullshit. That bill sucks. Tom Davis and I had a conversation about it. I was like, bro, this bill is horrible. It's horseshit. What are you doing? Anyway, the only thing that has integrity in that bill, the election integrity bill, is the fold in the middle of the paper. The fold in the middle of the paper. That is what has integrity in that bill.
Everything that rocks is right here.
Let's rock.
With Big Patriot Radio.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right, we're waiting on our guest to come in. We're expecting him any moment now. He'll go back into the green room and get himself prepared. You know, this is not, someone asked me not that long ago, man, you know, Beaufort County and this GOP is, what are y'all doing down there? It's not only Beaufort County. I don't want to paint the picture that, you know, it's only this county that has these issues. And let me also say, I'm sure that there's somebody with a show that is a Democrat that is saying the same things. on that side. Okay, so it's not that we're in a silo. But as far as GOP, let me tell you, Lexington County, a complete cluster. You know, they have I don't even know if she's chair anymore or not. She was shit canned. She wouldn't leave. There's suggestions of money being missing and the accounts being whitewashed. Just all kind of stuff. Her name, the chair was whatever, Pam Godwin. She is a Jeff Davis. She's a bootlicker, and she's horrible. She's horrible. She created something in Lexington County, which is a great county. That is an embarrassment. Look at Greenville. Greenville with the Greenville County GOP was up until I guess it was 2 years ago. They had a problem with their chair. Got removed or not removed. I don't even remember the whole story. It's so many things. Jeff Davis took it over. There's questions about where's the money, where's the this, where's the that. It's just a big cluster again. And then he becomes a state committeeman like Joe Dan is here, and he brings in a gal, and I can't remember her name to save my life. It's his puppet as the chairwoman. And she's been a Democrat, from what I understand, for like 30 or 40 years. All of a sudden, she's a conservative, but does what Jeff Davis tells her to do. Jeff Davis and Drew McKissick are like this. It's horrible. Why? And people say, well, why don't anybody get involved? Well, look at this shit. It's got to be cleaned up. Horry County had the same thing. The chair, got canned. Another one came in, didn't leave, did leave. Where's the money? Where's the emails? All this kind of stuff. Who's really the chair? Who won't say? One's a Drew McKissick fan. The other's a Jeff Davis fan. It's horrible. It's just horrible. And I hope, I hope it gets cleaned up. It's like my buddy Al Flowers. Whatever happened to Zoe Warren? Good question. So Zoe Warren, who is an awesome man, God-fearing man, godly man, in Lexington County. He is running for, I believe he's running for the Senate in Lexington County, and I want to say he's running against Shealy. I don't know her first name, Catherine, I think, maybe not. But anyway, he's running against Shealy. There's somebody else on the Republican ticket that's running. I hope that Zoe makes it. He is like me. We both fell into the Jeff Davis bull crap. Fortunately, he or I, neither one bit the hook all the way. We spit it back out. So he didn't catch these fish. But that's how I got to meet Zoe Warren. He got, he was involved in the whole, and I was already gone, but he was involved in the SCGOP chair fight. That's wow. Anyway, that's a whole nother basket of worms, but that's Zoe is alive and well, running his campaign. So best wishes to him as he goes forward, and hopefully he becomes state senator. There's a lot of good folks running. Deserves to be on your show. Book 'em, Dano. That's right. I would love to have Zoe Warren on. We had him on, I guess it's been a year ago or more, but it's time to, and we have a pretty good following there in the Midlands, in the Lexington County, not so much in Richland. That's a very thick Democrat area, but Lexington County is very conservative. We have a lot of folks that listen to the show or watch the show, listen to the radio station. So it would be good for him to be on here. So I'm going to take your lead there, Mr. Flowers, and we're going to get young Mr. Warren on this show. Let me check a couple things here, make sure we don't have anybody sitting in one of those rooms that doesn't get put on. Yep, we're all good. So we're going to wait for our guest for tonight. Want to be sure to remind you, if you'd like to consider a contribution, you see it going across the bottom of the screen there. Keep independent journalism and media going. Feel free to send a gift to Venmo. There you see at mcovert1581, or you can go to patreon.com/Buford House of Cards and become a member. We would love to have you there with us. There we go. So our guest has arrived. He's sitting back there in the green room. We'll give him just a minute to indulge in some of our water and what do we have? Chocolate chip cookies and some brownies back there. So we'll give him a second to do that as we get ready to bring him on. And hey, if there are people, we've got over looks like we've got over 350 people watching in all the platforms right now. If you have someone that you'd like to have on the show, you'd like to see, feel free to reach out. You can email us. Let me see. Do I have an email on here? I do. You can send us an email at bigpatriotradio@gmail.com. That's bigpatriotradio@gmail.com. And let us know, hey, I'd like for you to, I'd like to see Mickey Mouse on there. We'll get in touch with Disney and those wackos and try to get him on here. So anyway, let's move forward. We're going to bring in our guest for tonight. This is going to be a treat. He is a candidate for the South Carolina 1st Congressional seat, currently held by Nancy Mace, on here last week. If you missed that, you missed a good interview. This gentleman grew up in Chapin, South Carolina, and was in the Marine Corps from 2006 to 2010, served in Operation Iraqi Freedom. He has a degree in economics from North Carolina State University. And interestingly, I found out that he volunteered while he was in college to help create a 115-bed facility to help veterans. Our guest, he was a financial advisor until the point he realized that he was losing far too many. One is too many, but far too many of his Marine Corps brothers and sisters, losing him to suicide. And at one point, every 22 seconds, a veteran was taking their life in this country. I wouldn't be shocked if it's has grown, honestly. Anyway, our guest transitioned to a career path on veteran mental health when he moved from, or when he moved to Charleston back in 2018. He runs a nonprofit in South Carolina that enriches veterans and their lives through outdoor recreational therapy. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Bill Young. Welcome to the House of Cards.
Hey, good evening, and thanks for having me, and looking forward to a great conversation.
Absolutely. First of all, we're going to jump right in. Thank you for your service. And your biography there, really putting that emphasis on veterans and veterans' health, mental health. That is very, very impressive, Bill.
Yeah, I appreciate that. After getting out of the Marine Corps, never stopped serving our veteran community. As you talked about, had a lot of my colleagues who had lost their battle to their mental demons, and really just decided, we got to focus on veteran mental health. It's a huge issue throughout the country, and we can't turn our backs on the individuals who did so much to fight for our freedoms, to fight for free elections. And it's really a big issue throughout this country. I mean, 80% of our facilities throughout this country are understaffed when it comes to nurses and mental health. And that's going to be a large part of our platform, is focusing on those hiring practices, really getting more of the staff involved in the VA, and also expanding VA choice so veterans can have access to private care in the community at a higher rate than they are right now.
Outstanding. You know, I want to, we're going to ask you a few questions about your philosophies, strategies, should you become the next congressman from the South Carolina 1st Congressional District. But I want to start with talking about the number one thing that I hear people talking about and complaining about, and that's the economy. Grocery bags seem to now be, quantified on $100 per bag, in lieu of, how much can I get for $100? Now it's one bag, 100, two bags. You see what I'm saying? People are finding it extraordinarily hard to feed their families, gas their cars. Cost of goods are skyrocketing. And even in the business that I'm in heating and air conditioning, government DOE rules for 2025 made by the Biden DOE. You're going to see prices in that industry rise 15 to 25%. What can be done, in your opinion, to end this economic slide, at least from a congressional standpoint?
From a congressional standpoint, we've got to look at energy independence. I mean, not only energy independence, we got to be energy dominant. We got to get back to drilling. When Trump was in office, we were drilling on federal lands. He had a lot of permits under the Biden administration. They've taken those back because if you look at the supply chain, a lot of the supply cost is going to come from energy. If energy is high, I mean, that's going to increase costs just 20 to 15% right there when you're going from $2 to $3 a gallon. I mean, that's a huge jump. And that's a huge part of the cost when it comes to supply chain. We've also got to look at our food supply. Our farmers are selling off their land. China is buying farmland. Under the Trump administration, we also subsidized our farmers. And so we've got to take a look at making sure that food security in America is important and that we're making sure our farmers are secure, that they have that land, that they don't have to sell off, and that we have to focus on gas, natural gas as well. And, refineries. We haven't built a refinery here in America in over 40 years. And that's an issue because we've got to make sure that we're getting our energy costs and our energy supply that is not relying on what's going on in the Middle East and OPEC central planning.
Another hot topic is, we see this all, no matter what walk of life you're in, is illegal immigration. South Carolina residents overwhelmingly do not want continued open borders. And by even further margins, do not want undocumented and illegal immigrants to be shipped into South Carolina. Now, there's been reports recently that we've read that in the middle of the night recently, there's been flights coming into Greenville, Spartanburg with illegals either from Texas or Arizona. It doesn't really matter where. When I first wrote this question, I said, well, what will you do to stop the current influx of illegals and the drugs and crime they bring with them? And that's not a fair question. Really, the question should be is, what are we going to do? If you were the congressman for the South Carolina 1st, what are you going to do to, your share to stop the open border and the influx of illegals and drugs, et cetera?
Yeah. And that's a great question. And when we go all throughout the district, I mean, that's what we hear is the most important issue is the border. It's very important. The border problem is a problem everywhere in every state in this country. And honestly, when you look at the border, you got to go all the way down right now to Colombia and Panama at the Darien Gap. Right now we've had, before Trump administration, there was not as many crossings in the Colombia border at that jungle between Colombia and Panama. It's now grown to 500,000. We had over 2 million individuals who crossed illegally just last year. And so all of these people who are coming from that's 25% of the individuals who crossed here illegally. So we got to stop the bleeding. And I bring that up because the current incumbent right now, you can go look at her website and she's got this article where she's put like 20 bills in place when it comes to the border security. And, she's really good at taking the bare minimum and marketing it as a huge a huge accomplishment when really it's just passive at best. Like I said, we got to focus when it comes to Colombia and Panama. That border, 500,000 crossed just this past year. In 2019, it was under 50,000, right? Those are huge deals. And what Nancy Mace is doing right now is she's focusing on Trump policies that he had under his administration, and she's not evolving them. She's not adapting them to the current times. And that's what we've got to be doing. We can't just copy certain policies and think that's going to work and throw noodles and see what sticks to the wall. We've got to look at that border. We've got to focus on tariffs on Colombia. We've got to focus on making Colombia shut it down. The new president in Panama has said that he wants to shut that down and he needs help. He needs to do that. We've got to do that. I mean, you've got individuals children who are crossing it. Just 113,000 children who cross the Colombia-Panama border. You've got individuals from China, Venezuela, Haiti, and even Afghanistan that are coming over from that area. So we've got to shut that down. And then our school systems. I mean, we've got a lot of individuals who aren't speaking English and undocumented, illegal in our school systems right now. It's estimated that around here in this county and even in Myrtle Beach, it could grow to 25% of the students in the school system don't speak English. And so that's a huge issue that we've got to take a look at, as well as the crime and the drugs that are coming forward. And it doesn't stop unless we stop the bleeding there, because it's growing. And like I said, 500,000 at the Colombia border last year. It's going to be 750,000 they're expecting this year. And the reason why I say Nancy Mace isn't making a big deal of this, because she goes on Fox News and she goes on all these national medias and she calls us a purple district. And she doesn't want to go up against a lot of these liberal organizations that say if you shut the Darien Gap down, these individuals will have to cross in a more dangerous route. And so let's be real here. If you have to go a more dangerous route, you're probably not going to do it. So that's why we need to go up against these liberal organizations and say, listen, we're going to shut this down and we're going to help Panama shut it down. Because if they have to go a more dangerous route, they're not going to do it. They also say it's going to be more expensive and it's going to go to the cartels. Well, if it gets more expensive and it's more dangerous, again, you're going to reduce that number. We've got to find ways to reduce that number. We've got to stop the incentivization of people wanting to come here illegal. And that's really what it's going to take.
So that's interesting that you say that about Colombia and Colombia. First of all, I haven't had many people say that, and I like that comment. To me, it seems that we need to begin to put some extreme pressure on President, I believe it's Lopez Obrador of Mexico. He's kind of grown a pair here recently, and doesn't want U.S. help at the border for the cartels. Do you agree that there needs to be some pressure applied to Obrador to play along with really the Trump policies on the border? So yes, we need he needs to stop them from coming into his country. And stop them from, coming across his country into ours. What can be done? What kind of pressure can we apply to President Obrador?
Tariffs. Tariffs worked really well under the Trump administration. It doesn't just need to be holding foreign aid back, and that's what Nancy Mace is really touting in her Triangle Asylum Corporation or Asylum Agreement in Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras as well. And we've really got to look at tariffs instead of just holding back foreign aid, because if you hold back foreign aid, all that's going to do is until they start doing asylum, is it's going to make them want to do the asylum. Then they're going to say, hey, we need more money. And as conservatives and Republicans, we're not just about continuously giving you a handout. We've got to do the tariffs. We've got to force them to play their hand and get these individuals to stop coming into Mexico, to stop coming into America, and really showing these countries that we're not going to take it anymore. It's not just about policies and dealing with them here. We've got to make sure they don't come here.
Bill, let me ask you, obviously the military is very close to your heart. It's close to mine. I believe, quite frankly, everyone that listens to this network and this shows feels the same way. It's extremely important to us here in South Carolina, and specifically for this conversation in Beaufort County. We have 3 military bases and 4 if you count Laurel Bay Housing. Some people consider that a base. Anyway, Parris Island. You spent some time there. You put your boots on those yellow prints on the asphalt. It's arguably the most heralded military base in this country. What will you do to protect Parris Island from becoming part of another base closure conversation?
I appreciate that question. Parris Island, it's not going anywhere. People talk about the waters coming up and the rising oceans, etc. Parris Island's not going anywhere. It's going to stay right here in the Low Country. It's been here for years. As an elected representative, I will make sure that happens. We're not going to entertain conversations about it leaving. Nancy Mace says that she saved Parris Island, but let's be real. It's not going anywhere. The Marine Corps is not going to move it. We've got to be by the sea. There's conversations that have been floated around non-seriously that's going to be somewhere off the coast. Listen, the Marines, we have to be by the coast. We're not going to go purchase billions of dollars more land to bring another recruit depot. It's going to stay at Parris Island. The one conversation is maybe that naval hospital goes away. I know there's been some talk about that, and so we got to look at repurposing that. But Parris Island, it's not going anywhere. When I'm elected, it's not going to go anywhere. It's a non-starter. We're not going to have conversations. That's a very historic place, and it's where we need to train Marines. It's hot. It's humid. In the summer, it can be a miserable situation, which is great for making Marines, making men, making women into Marines. And it's just a great place. It's a great culture. There's a lot of history there.
Do you find this isn't a gotcha question. This isn't loaded because I really don't know the answer. Are the number of recruits in the Marine Corps specifically, are they plateauing or maintaining rather, or are they starting to drop a little bit? Where is our recruitment?
No, absolutely. And that's a great question. It's not gotcha, being that I'm very, strong when it comes to veteran in our militaries. I've been taking a look at our recruiting crisis. I will say the Marine Corps is the one branch that is hitting those recruiting standards. We're hitting our recruiting quotas. The other branches are having to drop their standards, and they are still missing those quotas. And, there's a lot of issues as to why that is. I'd like to talk about two issues when it comes to recruiting. Veteran families have traditionally been a high source of recruitment. They have encouraged their kids to join. That's decreasing at a really rapid rate right now. And, also people are looking at what our representatives are doing, and they decide if they want their kids to join based on how does our government support our military and our veterans when they come out. They turn their backs. They don't support the war. They sit here and send all of the foreign authorization over to the president. They don't bring that accountability back. We're still working on authorized use of military force from the early 2000s. And they stick their finger in the wind, and they figure out when they need to really emphasize foreign policy, like our current incumbent. And so individuals don't want their kids going into something that Congress can't be committed to. And then let's look at facilities in the military. They're outdated, they're aging, and you can go get a private sector job and get very good benefits. And so our current incumbent, Nancy Mace, says that she supports our military. But if you look at the quality of life hearing back in January or February, is a 2-hour hearing on the quality of life. She shows up an hour into it on a 2-hour hearing, waited 30 minutes to speak, and then blasted the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, who had only been in office for maybe 2 weeks, 2 months, brand new into his position of Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. And she blasted him on housing at Marine Corps Air Station Beaufort. Well, if she had been there from the start to the 1 hour, she would have heard every single senior enlisted official talk about Congress isn't giving us the budget to redo these barracks. She wasn't there for that. Apparently, it wasn't very important to her. What was more important to her was being there and making sound bites out of key issues, interrupting the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, and then storming out. We need someone in office who's going to be in the Armed Forces Services Committee and is going to come and serve our military and come from an active service, not come to a hearing for the military and preach down to our senior enlisted officials who have come there to talk about solutions and problems.
Speaking of Nancy Mace, we had the Congresswoman on here last week, and I asked her this same question I'm getting ready to ask you. Simple question. Bill, why you and not her or the other candidate?
Yeah, and appreciate that question. So why me? Like we mentioned, Marine Corps veteran. We've got, if you include the Coast Guard, we've got 5 military installations in this district. You got Marine Corps Air Station Beaufort, Parris Island, Charleston Air Force Base, Joint Weapons Station, and then also the Coast Guard. So we need somebody who has served. I am the only individual in the Republican primary who has served in the military. Yes, Nancy Mace says she's the first female graduate from the Citadel, and that's great, and I appreciate that. But that doesn't mean that she's a great leader, and that doesn't mean that she served in the military. And then when it comes to economics and the current state of the economy, I have an economics background, I have a financial background. I understand those inner workings, how to help fix that. And, when it comes to foreign policy, like when we won the Cold War, we need 30 years of straight good messaging, coherent long-term foreign policy. I don't see her doing that. And so it's very frustrating when you see an individual who only goes to the political wins. It's not just the nuclear deal in Iran. We should have been talking about the fact that China's buying their oil for years, but she just started to focus on that in the last 6 months. we've got to make sure that Iran does not have this supply line of militias and hatred from Iran to Israel and from Iran also to Russia. That's what they wanted. That's what they've wanted since we've been in Iraq. And it's not about endless occupying wars. It's about peace through the projection of strength. And Nancy Mace has been on the Armed Forces Services Committee now for several years. And our naval fleet is decreasing. China now has 100 more ships than we have. So if we want that status quo, and we want China to be pushing us out of the Indo-Pacific, then by all means, vote for Nancy Mace. But if we want someone who's going to push the issue, try and create innovative ideas, make sure that we get ahead of problems when it comes to the military so that we can have peace through the projection of strength, then vote for Bill Young. Vote for someone who's going to support our military, who's going to support our veterans when they get out, and also who's going to support small businesses like our local wild-caught shrimpers. You know, I have been pushing and advocating for our shrimping industry since this campaign started. Nancy Mace has been nowhere on this for 4 years. And on the date that we had a shrimping town hall on April 10th, she decides she's going to announce a press release that she supports our wild-caught shrimpers. Well, unfortunately, again, that's the bare minimum, what she's doing. The bill that she co-signed onto, it's great, okay, but again, it's the bare minimum, and she's using that marketing expertise to throw it up as a huge accomplishment. All right, we have a huge issue of importing shrimp. We've got 90% of our shrimp imported throughout this country, okay, and 40 to 60% of it are coming from Vietnam, India, and China, right? And it's forced slave labor, forced child labor, and it's filled with chemicals that the FDA has said is illegal, and we shouldn't be bringing this in. Nancy Mace has never talked about this once until I started talking about it. So the Save Our Shrimpers Act that she's gotten behind, what it does, it's the bare minimum. It addresses financial foreign investors who use the U.S. Treasury, taxpayer dollars, to fund international shrimp farms. Okay, very good. We need to address that. But it does not address the large amount of imported illegal supply of shrimp that's coming into our borders that the FDA should be by law inspecting, and they only inspect less than 1% of it. So what I'm advocating for are bills in Congress called the LESS Act, the Laws Ensuring Safe Shrimp Act, and as well as the Fishing Industry Credit Enhancement Act. So what the LESS Act would do is it would stop that large supply of shrimp from coming over that has chemicals and is poisoning our food supply, really. So it would stop that importation supply. Then we've got the Fishing Industry Credit Enhancement Act, which would address our domestic supply, and it would help our shrimping industry grow as our shrimpers grow. It would amend the farming credit system so that companies that assist our shrimpers, such as cold storage facilities, shrimp processing plants, and companies that sell equipment to them, they can get access to capital in the form of a loan from the farm credit system. So as our shrimping industry grows, so can the whole industry can grow together. And it's a multifaceted approach, and Nancy Mace isn't talking about that.
You know, there's a saying we have here, at least in Beaufort, that you'll see it on the back of trucks and whatnot, that friends don't let friends eat imported shrimp. We take that very seriously. We want our shrimp from the May River, our oysters from the May River. You know, while running for this office, Bill, it's critically important that you meet with and introduce yourself to U.S. Congress, House leaders, and so forth. Have you had the opportunity to meet with any of the leaders in the House yet?
So we are working on some introductions right now and working on some meetings in D.C. I can't really talk about who right now, but we are working on facilitating those. In the previous right now, a lot of the incumbents, they're looking at Templeton, they're looking at Nancy Mace because they're the more well-funded candidates. But when we talk with individuals in this district, people are like, Bill Young is the most qualified candidate. We want to vote for him. We're concerned about the money. So when we're talking with folks, hey, if you like what I have to say, go to billyoungforcongress.org and donate. But we are going to be meeting with some congressional representatives in D.C. We're working on that right now, and it should be a pretty exciting announcement because it's really going to blow some people away.
I have put I don't know if you can see it or not, but I put your website up there on the screen for people to go to. We have a question that's come in from one of our listeners. Let me pull that up here. Donna is asking, what about election integrity? That's been a big issue here locally. I hope let me rephrase that. That's a huge issue in South Carolina. And while, yes, every state is, responsible for running their elections, what is your take on where are we with election integrity in this nation, or more specific in South Carolina?
Great question. Election integrity is very important. It's very important to South Carolinians. It's very important to Republicans, and it's very important to Americans all throughout the country. Last election we had mail-in in a lot of states where they were just mailing ballots to registered voters, and estimated over 20% of the country voted in an area where they said they weren't registered. So we've got to really stop this mail-in ballots. If the federal legislation, we've got to make sure that we legislate and pass legislation that states are not allowed to just carte blanche mail ballots to registered voters. That's a huge avenue for fraud. But also another avenue as well that we need to take a look at, and I would advocate for, is amending the Voter Registration Act of 1993. If you haven't voted in 2 federal election cycles, then you have to re-register, because that helps alleviate the individuals who passed away and who've moved. If you don't vote in 2 federal election cycles where you're registered, you re-register. And it's not like you're losing your right to vote. You just have to re-register. As a veteran, if you don't go to the VA in 2 years, you get taken off the system and you got to re-register yourself.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Well, how do you feel about, what's your take on when it comes to elections and integrity? I'm of the belief that you should vote in private and the vote should be read in public. And that vote should be cast on a paper ballot. That's my opinion. There are many that watch this show that also agree with that, and there's probably some that don't, and that's fine. And as Donna is saying right there, electronic machines must go. Well, how do you feel about that? How are you with let's go to a paper ballot system. Nothing is infallible. Don't get me wrong. Nothing is infallible. But a serialized paper ballot where you vote in public and it's read preferably, you vote in private and preferably read at the precinct level. What's your opinion of that?
In the Marine Corps, we did manual and electronic, because manual is always the best way to go. So it can't be hacked. It can't be overturned. And if something happens, you've always got that ability to make sure that you can do it in the manual and the paper form. And so I'm not opposed to making sure that we go back to a paper ballot, because really the hallmark of a free society and a great government that people have faith in is that they have to have faith in their election system. And so as an individual, it's not just about what my opinion is, it's about the individuals who I'm representing. And I do hear a lot about that. It's, let's go back to that paper ballot. And so I am definitely open to advocating for that and passing legislation that says we go back to that paper ballot, because that's going to help a lot of individuals have faith in our election system. And if we don't have faith in our election system, then that's just it's a pathway back to a third world country. And that's not what America is about.
I have been, I tell this story a lot, having been in North Africa and the Middle East. Their voting system is purple ink on your thumb. That's how they know if you voted or not. Now, I'm not advocating going for purple ink on your thumb, but my point is this. If places like Iran or Algeria or whatever, if they can figure it out, by golly, the United States can figure this out. And what we're doing is not working.
Definitely would agree with you on that. And unfortunately, a lot of times in Washington, Congress, and in our national news media, if they continue to kick the can down the road and have a problem, it gives them something to talk about and makes it seem like, they have something to do. So unfortunately, we have a lot of individuals in Congress, and I would say even our current incumbent, who is incentivized to really not get things done, to continue to go on national news and make sound bites out of key issues.
Are you going to do as many news shows?
With that said, it's a great question. And I would say that there's nothing wrong with going on TV, but you got to use it to advocate for issues that, one, are for your district and one that are moving America forward. And what we see a lot with the incumbent is she just wants to go on TV to talk about herself and to promote herself. You don't hear her really talking about the district much. You just hear her talking about either national issues, trying to talk about herself and really get her promoted in the national conversation. And that's an issue. There's nothing wrong with going on TV. We've just got to make sure that we are really pushing forward a coherent long-term foreign policy, that we are not just going to the political winds, and that we're proactive. because America sees that. The youth of this country sees it when individuals just use events to be reactive to something, and they lose respect for you. But the media is going to put you on TV because they love it.
Bill, I want to thank you for your time, and you are always welcome on this show. I hope to. I'd like to be able to have the three of you on here together. Maybe we can get that. Maybe we can get that scheduled. I've got your website up there on the screen. People can go there to donate. Can find out more about you. Your last ditch at a elevator introduction before we go.
Yeah, again, BillYoungForCongress.org. You can find more about our campaign. We're really here. We're people, not politics. We're about the actual issues. And there's supposed to be a debate on June 5th on NBC from 8 to 9 p.m. We're waiting on one person to be confirmed for that. So, I would just want to say I challenge Nancy Mace to confirm that invitation to come to the debate, because I would love to debate with Nancy Mace and I'm sure the rest of the district would like to see it, instead of just seeing commercials saying who wrote a bill. How does that help this district? Let's talk about things other than who authored a bill, please.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bill Young. Thank you, Bill, for coming on the House of Cards. Don't forget to tune in to BigPatriotRadio.com. Thank you again, and best of luck. Hope to have you on here again.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate it.
All right.
God bless America.
Everything that rocks is right here. Right here.
Let's rock.
With Big Patriot Radio.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, Lord. And there you have it. BillYoungForCongress.org. Check him out. Learn a little bit about him. Next up is going to be Catherine Templeton. So hopefully her people are listening and they will respond back with a time and date. We want to let you in on a couple things before we go. One being the whistleblowers against Beaufort County. One of our whistleblowers, and I can't remember if I told you all about this or not, one of our whistleblowers that we had been working with decided not to come on. For whatever reason, he or she cannot do it publicly. I get it. I respect that. This is not an easy thing to do. Putting yourself out there, whether there's 2 people watching or 202 or 2002. Other media watches this, and other places take some of our stories and run with it. So I get it. That's okay. However, we have another source, hopefully coming on soon. This person is an employee of the county, or at least I think they still are. There are some very important pieces of information they will be sharing with us, so please stay tuned with that. Or for that, if you enjoyed the Shannon Loper and Eric Greenway whistleblowing type interview, this will be as that, or even maybe a slight bit higher caliber. There's some shit to be squoze out of that bag. Speaking of Beaufort County, County Council has been meeting with folks, I guess over the last couple of weeks, in reference to hiring the next county administrator. We have not heard who is on that short list, but when we do, we'll let you know. And I believe, if I remember correctly, when council says they have finalists, it is then by law they have to release their names to the public. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully they're doing their due diligence, and we'll get top-notch, another top-notch person in there. Also, the situation in the Middle East and Europe specifically is heating up. Unless you have been living under a rock, we've seen troop buildup in the Baltics on the borders of Belarus and Russia, as well as seeing troop and munitions buildup on from both Russia and Belarus along the border of the Baltics and Poland. You should pay special attention to what's known as the Suwalki Pass. That is an area around the Belarus, Poland, Kaliningrad region. That area would be extremely important to Russia to gain control and get direct access to Kaliningrad from the motherland. Currently, to get to Kaliningrad, obviously that's part of Russia. They have to fly up towards Finland and down through the, I guess that's the Baltic Sea, and come in, offshore to get to Kaliningrad because it is locked. So pay attention to there. Let's see what else. The United States has been sending KC-135 refuelers along with other refueling planes in groups of 4 to 6 recently over toward to Europe. And it's been almost every other day now. It bears paying attention to what's going on. It would be in the interest of Democrats in the U.S. if the U.S. It brought into 1, 2, or even 3 areas. Hey, let's go to 3. World conflicts. That is something that the Democrats would love to draw the attention away from Donald Trump. I encourage you, pay attention to directly what's going on around you and around the world, and be sure that you have prepared should something happen. And that will mean different things to different people, but be sure you have done your due diligence. Until next Thursday, good night, America, and watch your 6.